lecture, we will talk about passing a list to function. You will often find it useful to pass a list to a function, whether it is a list of names, numbers, or more complex objects, such as dictionaries. When you pass a list to a function, the function gets direct access to the contents of the list. So we have a list of users and want to print a greeting to each. The following example sends a list of names to a function called greetUsers, which greets each person in the list individually. So we define a function called greetUsers names. The names is a local variable which will accept the values when the function is being called, and inside the function there is a for loop. So for name in names, this names, the parameter of the function, and it is actually a list. So for the list we can use a for loop. For each item in this list, we will print this item's title for. So for each person in the names list, we will print hello person's name. So the message is available. Create the first, then print this message. We print hello person's name. So here is the outside of the function. We then create a username, the list called usernames with 3 names inside. Then we call this function and put this list into calling parentheses. So in the end, the function will print each person's name in this list. So sometimes we can modify a list in a function. So when you pass a list to a function, the function can modify the list. Any changes made to the list inside the function's body are permanent. I write this sentence with red color because this is the special characteristic of the Python language, which is somewhat different from other languages like R. So this, if we put the list inside the parentheses when calling this function in previous example, then the list items will be used in the function, and actually we can modify this list within the function and without using a return statement. This is a special thing of the Python language. So we can see example. Consider a company that creates 3D printed models of designs that the users submit. So designs that need to be printed are stored in a list, and after being printed they are moved to a separate list. The following code does this without using functions. So these codes are doing this task but without using functions. So we create 2 lists. First is unprinted designs with 3 items inside, and the next is the completed models with empty list at the beginning. Then we use a while loop. So while unprinted designs means while unprinted designs, this list is not empty, it is still having items inside. Then we will move items to this list. So inside the while loop, we will create a variable called current design. Then this current design's value is actually the unprinted design's last item. We use a pop function. So take this last item and put into current design's variable. Then a printing statement print. We are printing model current design. We are printing this model now. Then complete the modules. This list will be appended with the current design's value. So using pop function, take one from this list and put into this list. Then, after the while loop are finished, all the 3 items will be moved from unprinted designs to the completed models, this list. So we can print the following models have been printed. So for completed model, incompleted models, using a for loop for this list, because this list is not empty now, has 3 items inside if the calling has no problem. So we use a for loop for complete the model, incomplete the models, then print each model. And we can recognize this code by writing 2 functions, each of which does one specific job. The first function will handle printing the designs, and the second will summarize the prints that have been made. So we define the function print models with 2 parameters, a list of designs that need to be printed and a list of completed models. And given to this list, the function simulates print each design by emptying the list of unprinted designs and filling up the list of completed models. Then define the function show completed models with 1 parameter, the list of completed models. Given this list, show completed models displays the name of each model that was printed. So this is the code. We define 2 functions. The first function is print models. So use 2 parameters. One is unprinted designs and the second is completed models. Both are called parameters and local. Local means outside of the function. Outside the function cannot use these variables. This variable only exists inside the function. So inside the function, so when people calling functions will assign values to these 2 variables. So while unprinted designs, so while unprinted designs is not empty, we will use popping function and take this last item from this list, then put into the current design variable, then print. This is same as the previous example, not using function. So print this function we are currently, then use append function to add this value to complete the models list. So this is the function. Then next we will use another function created diff show complete the models. So this function only has 1 parameter when you are calling. Then the following models have been printed out. Then for complete the model, incomplete models, so this is a list. When people have finished the job, the printing models has moved all the items from uncompleted models to the completed models. Then we can print this list using a for loop. For complete model, incomplete models, print complete model. So from this statement, they are outside of the function. Outside the function, we create 2 lists. First is unprinted designs. Unprinted designs. We can actually use any name for these 2 lists. Others called complete models is empty list at the beginning, but we can use other names, no problem. No problem. Just remember, if we change these 2 list names, but when we call these print models, we have to put these 2 names inside this calling function, because we do not care about the name of these parameters in the function. They are just local to the function, but we can create other names for these 2 lists when we call model. Then these 2 list names should be put into the parentheses when functions are being called. So first is print models function, call this function, then unprinted designs and complete models, and show complete models, complete models. So in the end, 3 items in complete models will be printed out. Actually, it's the same as the these original list items. But if we print unprinted designs now, it will be empty because all items of these lists have been moved to these lists. But these jobs are done inside the function. So these characteristics are very specific to the Python language, because here, without using any return value statement, but the list we have said this list's name can use any name. Actually, this is outside of the function's list, but inside the function, the lists, these original lists, have been changed, modified inside the function. So this is very special, have to be noted. But sometimes you do not want a function to modify lists. So for example, say that you start with a list of unprinted designs, and right in this case, you can address this issue by passing the function a copy of the list. So if you do not want function to change the list, so function inside the function, if we passing a variable into the function, the function will not change the variable's original value outside of the function. But if we pass a list to the function, any job done inside the function with a list, original list, will be permanently. So how to prevent a function from modifying a list inside the function? So we can do this, address this issue by passing a function a copy of the list. So not the original. So any changes the function makes to the list will affect only the copy, leaving the original list intact. So you can send a copy of a list to a function like this. So when we call function, the function name and this is list name, we use slice column for the slice, but without the first and second index in the slice and with a bracket. So this is a copy, list name bracket column is a copy of the original list. So that means the original list are not be sent to the function directly. The slice notation makes a copy of the list to send to the function. So if we didn't want to empty the list of unprinted designs in previous example, we could call print models like this. So print models unprinted design. This is the original list, but we use a colon inside the bracket here. So this is a copy of the unprinted design, and we do the same job as before, but the unprinted design, this list will not be changed from the function. We will show this job in Anaconda spider. So we move to lecture 6, passing a list to function for the Python source file, section 7, functions py. The file's link can be checked inside the description of the video. So first we pass a list of names to a function called greet users, and then greets each person in the list individually. So we define this function, greet users names. Therefore, names in names message will be printed out. We run this function first. I'll create this function. Then this is a list with 3 names in the list. Then we call this function greet users. So the names list will be passed to the function. Then every item of this list will be printed out. So hello Hannah, hello Margot. So next, modify a list in a function. So first we start a version that do not use function. So these are 2 lists. First is unprinted design. The second is complete models with an empty list. Created. Then use a while loop. So while this list unprinted design has item inside, then we will take this last item out and put into this variable. Then we print a message. We are printing models with this current design now. Then the complete models list will be appended with this value. We'll run this while loop. Then 3 jobs are done: printing model, printing model. Then we can print a message. Then a for loop for this complete models list. Completed models is a list now has been filled up with 3 items. We can use a for loop for each item in this list. Can print this item. Print. So 3 items printed out. Next, we can use modify a list in your function version. Use 2 functions. First, we'll create a function called print models with 2 parameters inside unprinted design and completed models. Then, if this list is not empty, we will take this last item from this list and assign it to this variable. Then print a message. We are doing this job. Then we will append this value to the complete models list. Run this function. Next, we will create another function called show complete models to show every item in this complete models list. Run. So 2 functions have been created. Then we will call this function, but first we'll create 2 lists. One is unprinted designs and another is completed models. We have said these 2 lists can be used to use other names, no problem. But when we call this model, we will put into this 2 lists, not the functions parameters name, to not be confused. So we create these 2 lists first. So one has items, 3 items, one is empty now. And we call this function print models. So there are 2 parameters. First use this list, the second use this list. Then the job is done, printing is done. Then we will show complete the models because these items have been changed. Both have been changed inside the function. So we will show complete models now. There are 3 items inside this model, and we will print. For example, we'll print this original list called unprinted design. Now we'll run this. That's empty now, empty because modified. So both lists have been modified inside the function, although we have not used any return value or other operations. So if you do not want to modify the original lists using this function, you can use a copy of a list when you are calling the function. So only when you're calling the function, you use a copy of list. Do not be confused that you put the copy of the list inside put in the function definition. So function definition will be unchanged. Function definition will be the same as if you want to modify lists from the inside the function. So if you do not want to modify the values of a list from the function, you can use a copy of the list. So these 2 lists will be the same. We will create initially for these 2 lists are the same, created. Then when we call this function print models, we use use slice column without the first and second index of the slice operation and brackets. So we just use input passing a copy of the unprinted designs because we do not want to change this list from the function. So we're passing a copy, and complete models is the original list because we want to function to pop every item from this list to this list. So this is what we want function to modify, but this list will not be modified. So we run this with a passing of a copy of the list for the first list, then run. Then we should complete the models with for the passing list. Yes, it's true. 3 items have been now in the complete models. But when we run this, show this original list still has 3 items in this list, have not been changed. So this is what we have talked about, the passing a list in the function. This is a very special behavior. But this only involve with the list, not for the variable. So if Python will pass a variable to a function, then it will never be changed from the function, only if we use return statement from the function. So if we use a list, put a list, passing a list to the function, then we do not need to write any statement like a return value. We do not need return because Python will change the list automatically if we do not use the copy of version of the list.